What's up, man?
What's up, everybody? Yo, I'm Spartan. It's gonna make me play my main. What's up, big dog? Ready to get this W?
Oh, yeah.
He said, oh, yeah. I like that. I like that. Alright, man. Let's see what we can do here. Put you in the aim assist backpack. You play on mouse and keyboard?
No, I play on controller.
Let's go! We're both in the aim assist backpack. I've played on both. I'm just convinced of the controller's close-up superiority, so I stick with it.
Oh, yeah.
I love the magnetism, man. Is someone here?
Yeah, there's a caustic over here. I didn't get a gun.
I am taking fire on the enemy. Enemy taken down.
Over here.
Yeah, he's right here. I'm watching him.
Coming up. Race.
Yep. I want her to. Just gonna stay up here.
Beginning ring countdown.
Look at the map.
Stay over there.
Here I go.
Here she comes. Told you.
Good shit.
Aim assist for the win, boys. Oh! That boy came out of nowhere. Oh, that's so funny, dude. Oh, he's probably so happy. One shot, one kill. Let's see. I'll invite him back. Why not? Right? What's up, big dog?
What's up, man?
Not much, man. Living it up.
Hell yeah.
That was too sad, right? We had it too.
Yeah.
So you coming from let's see. Do you have Discord?
Yeah, but I don't know how to use it that well.
Oh, are you coming from console?
Yeah, I'm a PS4 player.
Well, you're making a good change. I did a year ago now, so.
Right?
Nope.
It just seems like it plays so much better on PC.
Oh man, it's not Steam. You're not hallucinating. It's entirely a different game.
I'm the jump master.
Like, the weapons might be the same, the mechanics might feel somewhat the same, but it is entirely different.
Hold your breath. If you have a respiratory system.
The 144,
I love it.
the frames just change the entire game.
Oh yeah.
They just make the game like so much smoother. I can't even play it on console, so. See, I started playing on PC this game, and then I tried it on console. It was a wrap.
Right.
Yeah. He's ripped, but man, he's right here. He's running.
Okay.
I'm just gonna try to come over here and res me. He just ran. It's caustic. Yeah, I can't play this game on console.
Yeah. This doesn't seem like nothing works.
Champion has been eliminated.
Open doors when you first jump out of the shit.
On what?
Wait a second, I got somebody over here.
I'm coming. He's outside? Nice, nice. I'm coming. Nice job.
Full squad's down. We made the right choices.
Yeah. I switched to the mouse and keyboard, but like I made it all the way into diamond with it, and
Right.
it just it's better far to mid range,
Watch for them.
but it's not as good like within any range right here, which is
Right.
85% of this game. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Even the pros
Right up.
have admitted to it. Just don't have that aim assist, you know?
Yeah, that too.
And I don't care what anyone says. If it's in the game, why am I not going to use it?
I know that's right.
It's kind of like somebody telling me to ride my bike without tires.
Right.
If they make my bike roll, why am I not going to use them, you know? If it helps me aim, then why not? I didn't put it in the game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not the developer. Anyways, it's my
But
rant.
might as well take advantage of it while it's there.
Yep. I do like the mouse and keyboard though, much better for like long range battles.
Attention.
Yeah.
There is a new kill leader.
Have
I
you-
tried it, but I don't know.
Takes a really
Wouldn't
long
be-
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to give it at least like 3,000 kills,
Attention.
and then you really start to feel it. Especially if you get.
People,
Let's see. All right, I'm just grabbing
they're
this.
pushing you.
I'm distracting them. Oh no!
Frag out.
He's knocked.
Enemy down.
I don't know where the other one is. This one's right here.
Contact. Throwing arc star.
There she is.
See that Peacekeeper, man? I would have been concerned with my mouse, but with my controller, crap.
My shields are recharged.
See, and I can tell he was a keyboard player because you can't do that type of stuff with the mouse or with
Right.
the controller. You can't run like that, slide, jump up. I don't even need to do that. That's why. I just grab my Peacekeeper, aim it and shoot, boy. Cause with the mouse, dude, like with the Peacekeeper, you get like 40, 50, like very often up close. But with the controller, you get 100, almost 80+% of the time up close.
Yeah.
I think someone might be here.
Heads up. Care package coming in.
Anyways, yep.
It's zipline time. I am repairing myself. Grappling.
You'll have these debates so much, so the more you play on PC, like actual debates, so you start playing with keyboard players. I just tell them right away, like, yeah, I do think it's better, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's better in certain situations.
Right.
That's the best way, though, just to get the mouse and keyboard guy, like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. I do play like Call of Duty though with the mouse, and I'm trying to play more and more games because it really is superior, like overall.
Right.
Like Valorant or Valorant, however you say that name, you can't even play that game with a keyboard or with a controller.
I don't know if I'm gonna be playing that one. I've watched some streamers do some stuff on it, and I'm like,
It,
Counter Strike with a different face.
yeah, it looks like Counter-Strike with new skin. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's for me either. I'm honestly waiting on Infinite Halo. That's another reason why I don't want to switch. Because even though I know it's going to be cross-platform, Halo is a game just like Call of Duty is still a controller game. The controller on Call of Duty still has an advantage. A major
Is it coming
advantage.
to PC?
Yeah, the new one's on it's the first one that it's on all platforms.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I just sold my Xbox the other day and I was like, man.
Yep.
Should have kept it because
No, dude, you can get it. Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And they just redid.
I'm talking about Halo.
Oh yeah, yep. Halo will be the first Infinite. That's what it's called, Halo 6. It will be the first Halo that is all cross compatibility.
Oh, wow.
That's why it's taken them like 3 or 4 years too. Not only because they messed up on Halo 5 horribly, but yeah, they did a really bad job with Halo 5. Like at the end of the game, they finally worked out a lot of the bugs, but overall it was just someone's here.
Couple steps behind you.
Backing up.
Okay.
Thermite grenade out. Thermite grenade.
They're hurt. I'm hurt bad though.
Recharging.
I'm healing. You gotta run. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
dead.
fuck.
I can't hit him up there. Popped him. Hit me though. Ooh, they're gonna rush me.
Yeah, they did.
Yep, we got third party.
That was my.
No, you're good. I rushed in on them, but they played it really smart. They didn't rush me at all. They just really weirdly, actually, they went to the top of the they just went to the top of the building instead of pushing me. I've never seen anybody do that. Yeah, Halo Infinite though will be all Xbox, and it won't be PlayStation obviously, but it'll be Xbox and PC. Yeah, that's
Nice.
I think that will always stay, I mean at least for the next 5 years, non-PlayStation.
Listen and fight.
I just don't see it not.
This is your champion.
This is awesome. I'm the jump master.
Let's do this, dude. Let's just drop hot.
If you have a respite, let's go.
Let's use our controllers to their advantage. Yeah. What rank were you on the console?
180 something?
Taking damage, friends.
Watch yourself. There's another squad. Firing.
Did you ever play ranked?
Hang on a second. Here, it's super loud up here.
Another squad. Enemy.
Round one.
right here, dude. He's one shot. Literally one pickle on his head. Oh, he's traded to the. Yeah, you got him. I think he switched the armor. There you go. He's gonna die so quick. Oh, he's healing. No, you got him though, dude. He's really weak.
They might be watching.
There's another team pushing to my right though.
You. Oh, there's a guy behind you too. You can just get my banner if you want to run.
What the fuck? I was around the corner.
Yeah, it's okay. Man. It's PK.
I don't like about this game though. It seems like I'm hidden. There's no way I should be dying, but oh well, I guess.
Oh, here, 1 second. Let me see. Try to invite my friend. He won't join.
Damn, dude. I just wanna. Oh, shit, dude. Let's fucking go. Nice, dude. I'm almost.
is your champion.
I'm the jump master. This time. Here we go. Ready up. Let's thing.
First blood on the enemy.
Might be something good this one.
Grapple.
There is a new kill leader.
New kill leader. Watch for them. I'm taking shots. Enemy down.
Nice work. You're aiming right at you.
Round 1. Beginning ring countdown.
Great. Already inside the ring. Fire. Enemy. Oh no! There's another squad attacking. I killed an enemy.
Contact with hostile. Reloading. Last member's down. One squad closer to win. Reloading. There's another squad attacking. Opening fire. Cylinder start. Archer out. Enemy taking. Patching myself. Contact with target.
Reloading. Whole squad down. Now we can. I'm the new kill leader. Excelsior.
Reloading. New kill leader. Watch for them.
Giving my shields a recharge.
Yo. What's up, man? You trying to play? You getting back in the Apex scene? How's Call of Duty going? What do you think about Valorant?
I've not played Valorant, but
It looks like just everybody. I know everybody says this, but it looks like just CS:GO with a skin on it.
yeah, no, pretty much yes.
Overwatch abilities.
Play a lot smarter, I guess.
Yeah. It's like
Well,
point
no, it's
and
not
shoot.
horrible, but
Yeah, it's like point and
yeah,
shoot.
That's what kind of seems like for Valorant. You can get a lot of kills pretty easy if you can aim well.
Already inside.
Right. That's why I started playing Apex, is like the movement, all the new, like just the more realistic. That game, it's kind of like, it looks like you move like a bot.
Yeah, and you can actually take shots in this game instead of getting laser right away.
Right.
Hostile over there.
Incoming care package. I love loot.
Thermite grenade. Strike out.
Enemy taken down.
Reloading.
Grappling. We just eliminated the whole squad.
Right.
Recharging shields.
I don't know, I just can't see myself either getting into that game.
Reloading. Look out, grenade.
Thermite grenade out. Enemy down.
Receiving damage. We killed the last member. Good work, team.
Need to recharge my shields.
I am repairing myself. I am repairing myself.
Placing a portal. Portal's ready.
Yeah. Sad thing is, it's probably gonna be really popular.
Yeah, I know it's been top for a while, but that's probably because of the whole drops or whatnot.
Right.
I wish Apex did get a lot more popular than what it got.
I guess they're already planning Apex out to Season 8.
What season are we on even now? I forgot.
Yeah, they're gonna have to add entirely new weapon, entirely new character, entirely new map. Which they have the two things right there, but they don't have the new map. They need a totally new map, new dynamics.
Yeah.
Duos is fun now, though. They did add that, so.
I like duos a lot.
Yeah. Right. I thought that they should add like a capture the flag, dude. Be kind of cool.
Beginning ring countdown.
Not all of us are in the ring. Check your maps.
Grappling. Here I go.
Are y'all in my lobby?
What?
Oh, okay. I'm almost done. 6 squads left. Get the W. I do like the rotating maps. I'll say that. I'm glad there's enough maps.
Mix.
I'm glad they took out the dark, though. That was absolutely horrible. Nobody liked
I
it.
like the dark.
Setting a portal.
I like the dark. Dark's my favorite.
I don't like it because it starts to hurt my head.
Oh shit, really? I don't know. I seem to do good on dark a lot.
It literally would just start to hurt my head like the longer I play it.
1 minute before the ring closes. We have time.
It's a glitch. Like that with some people. Literally, it's just a glitch. Some people say reinstall the game, but yeah. I was gonna say exactly if it's worth it to you. That's how mine was. I finally got it working smooth. I reinstalled it, so I'm not messing around with it.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know. I did pretty good on when it was nighttime map.
Yeah, this game works really smooth now. I like it. It's definitely probably 500% better than it was when it came out, as far as just the mechanics.
Oh yeah.
And the sound is finally good. It's actually like within 5 feet, you can tell where somebody is.
Lucky us. We are
You gotta fix that in Warzone. It's trash.
Yeah, Warzone's bad.
And I get they didn't like it still says beta. It's way better than Apex was when it came out, but that sound is just so off. Like it's literally it's like Apex, the sound. Everything else is way better than Apex was when it came out, but the sound is on par. Like
Get ready. It's zipline time.
200 feet away, it sounds like somebody's around the corner.
Throwing arc star. Frag out.
Great. Inside the ring.
Target spotted. You're being aimed at.
Shooting at me.
Reloading.
Enemy down. I am down.
One second. We got this. Whole squad's down. You made the right choice.
Let's get the W here.
Repairing my damages. Giving my shields a recharge.
Yeah, dude, playing doubles just can get them so quick. I love doubles though, it's my favorite game type in this game. I haven't even been playing ranked since this came out.
Recharging my shields.
1 minute. The ring isn't far.
Punching a tunnel. Hostile spotted. Hostile over there.
Got a devotion. Oh no! Should have healed. Said he's almost dead.
I got you, friend. Lucky us. We are all
Just swing away, dude. Dang it.
Not today.
Choked. What'd you say? Oh, dang. This guy won. That's pretty cool. The controller players just won the 100K tournament. Yeah, dude, they've been Snipe Down. Which you know Snipe Down, he's like a Halo legend. He got third in the X Games for Apex, and then he won the first X Games ever for e-gaming. But anyways, yeah, they just won the 100K tournament, dude. TSM, a lot of the good teams were there. So I don't know if Ace was there, but
Hold on tight. It's time to drop, shock, and rock.
I know like TSM, Imperial, a lot of those good players were there.
Let's do this.
He has a lot of experience though, like competitive wise. I mean, he's going on like 20 years of, he was like a 25-time world champion for Halo, so. You good? Oh, more. There you are.
Reloading. There's an enemy. First blood. Good work.
Another one's coming. Trying to bait him in. I don't know where he went. The Bloodhound somewhere. Bloodhound's ability now can scan like an entire city. It's useful though now. Because he's really, I mean, he's not a very useful character. That's crazy though, I can't believe they won. 100K. Down there? Alright, I'm coming. He's probably picking up his banner. It was his friend. Yeah, he's right here. He's like 2 health, dude. Maybe 4 health. That's cool, dude. I'm happy for him.
Heads up. New kill leader.
Oh, you do? I got one. Here, let me shoot this down. You can have it.
Cargo bot.
Right there. Well, I had to run. Yeah, I did. Yep, right here.
Let's explore this way.
And, heavy mag.
Picking myself up.
Yeah, dude, I play Call of Duty, but I just can't get into it.
Recharging my shields.
I mean, I think it's, right here.
Let's go this way.
Right there to my right. Alright, alright. Ammo right here.
Heavy ammo here.
Nice. Yep.
One minute. Ring's pretty close.
It's cool though. You know who Snipe Down is, right? Yeah. I think he's just waiting for Infinite to come out. What's up, man? Where do you go when you play Modern Warfare? Do you go? Huh? I can hear you, dude. What's up? How you doing, man?
Train is right here.
Yeah, there was still no good armor for you. I looked. I'm going here.
Setting a portal.
And I go to the Mirage.
Good work. We're inside the next ring.
Have you played with the Mirage? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I'm playing with. Below you?
New kill leader. Tango spotted. Taking fire. We're let down right. They got me. I'm down.
Throwing Arc Star. Heads up. Reloading.
Of course he did. No! I almost got both of them! Dang it! Man, if I was right there with you, it would have been a wrap. Yeah, they get, when I looked over the thing, you're like, they're right up here with me. The Pathfinder was in the air, and then the Wraith was just right there. It was a wrap for you. I just didn't want to give you any despair. Yeah, I just didn't want to give you any despair. Yo, the Tigo, the controller players just won the 100K tournament. Yeah, Snipe Down and his crew.
I know all the roads. They all lead to the same place.
First place, man, 100K. That means he probably won like 18K after taxes and paying his rogue.
This is your champion.
Ever get the feeling you're not alone in the room? You're not.
I'm the jump master. This time.
He told that boy. Russell? Dad's about to do a suplex. About to jump off his computer.
Might be something good this way.
Heard that.
I'm gonna throw Jace. You're teaching your son too many advanced techniques for his age. He's gonna be like a master guru by our age. Yeah, you gotta be careful. He's gonna be that friend that everybody asks everyone to do everything. Yeah, like your mom's like, well, will you call Comcast? And your other friend's like, dude, I just can't get this game set up right. I'm actually gonna drop that. You want that? I'm dropping it. Yeah, I'm coming.
Countdown.
Going to push with him. Dropping a light. It sounds so loud, but it's on the other side of the wall there. They're still fighting, dude. This is a real battle, huh? For the beginning of the game? It's quite the business. Right here. Just popped.
You're not safe there. You're in a hot zone.
Other one ran right here.
Hostile close. Enemy taken out.
Let's just loot this while he's running. We're good. He's solo, What'd you do? 2 damage? That boy was solo. He ran out the house like, 3 guys, 1, no problem. Looks like it was a problem. Oh, sorry, chat. I can't even see my chat, dude. Didn't even plan. Yo, thanks for those Lightning strikes. I don't know what they're called. Stream on, yeah, stream on 4 platforms. YouTube, Mixer, yeah. Yeah, they have it on, I didn't know on Restream, but they have it where you can put all of your chats into one. I never, there's a setting in there where you can configure every chat to show them one. Didn't know that. So. But I did though.
Punching a tunnel.
45 seconds. Ring ain't close. Off the mic, lady. Dibs.
Portal's ready.
Ring ain't far. Half of one.
There's gotta be something right here. Yeah, Tigo's a pro now, so let's get ready to get in the backpack. I know you've been off for a while. Won't tell you that, but
Got 10.
Heads up. The ring's moving.
there's no one up there. You gotta know, Russell. Dude, your son's so funny. Sounds like one of those kids like you'd want to wrestle with. Give him that elbow off the top of the couch. I can't wait till my son's big enough. My daughter, I already do that with her, so. Or up here. Right here.
Target over there.
I'm waiting on this. Is that you shooting? Okay, that's you. Yeah, he's right here. He's right here.
Target spotted.
44.
Look out. Grenade.
Oh, they're hurt bad. Just threw his ult. Get ready. Dude, this is the longest care package drop I ever seen. He's almost dead. I'm healing. Yep. I'm healing. They're getting rushed now. They're getting flanked. Fall, fall, fall. I got him, I got him, I got him. They're getting rushed now.
This won't hurt. Hold on.
Has that thing landed yet? Longest care. It did, he got it. Okay. I'm setting a portal right here. I'm going up there. I'm gonna set a portal up there.
Punching a tunnel.
So we can run if we need to. Alright, right here. Knocked one.
Downed an enemy.
Got the other one.
That was the last one. You're not safe there.
I think someone's aiming at me. It said it's not safe here, and I was in the box, so I don't know if it was like late because I killed the guy, but I think it was just recently. There's tons of boxes down here, dude. There's 4 of them. So, boy, going crazy.
Healing up. Eyes are open though.
Is he saying stop it? What I like more, wingman or R99 combo. I think I'm more wingman now. Really do think I like the wingman more than the R99 now. I like the R99, but I feel like I have to get so close to really be able to use it well. Yeah, and that's why I feel like I keep my Peacekeeper though, you know? If I'm close enough, I'm gonna use my Peacekeeper. Are they pushing up? Coming behind you. Right here. Going up this way.
We should go here.
The Watts or the Wraith is weak, you're saying? I'm in here, behind you.
Come on in. Old Taylor is waiting.
He's up here on the hill. Knocked. It's up above us, Tigo. Yep. Just in case we need to, I'm setting this. Oh!
Reloading. Killed an enemy.
I got them all. Are they coming up? Are they hiding? Yeah, he's hiding. Alright.
45.
Using a med kit. 1 second. Up in the chimney. Stop, I'm getting shot at. Recharging my shields.
Yeah, he's almost dead. Oh, he's right here. He's got the P2020. Dude, he'll melt you, just hide. It's one shot kill. No shields. He's coming down. Revenant right here. Nice. He hit him. Nice, you dropped him. Here, can you res me quick? I'm right here, I pull back. You're good, you're good. Nice, nice.
Recharging my shield.
You good? Okay. We're coming, we're coming. We're coming. He's gonna die. He's gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Placing a portal.
Ah, the best portal in my life. Oh, dude, let's go, boys. Oh, there's only one on our team. It's the biggest. Look, we're invisible here. Big smoke pile right in the middle. Oh, dude, that's so funny. Can't believe we won all those battles. Oh, I need light ammo. Only have 6 shots. I have no shotgun ammo either. Wow. There was just so much going on. We kept pushing through every team, so I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Didn't even loot though. Yeah, I just Just hit him with the Peacekeeper. Every time. I was charging it too when that Revenant came out. I hit him with the bolt. The bolt.
1 minute. Ring's not far.
The bolt. The bolt. Ooh, the viewership is looking nice. Nice, nice. Just what I need. Been looking for that the whole time, dude. Good. I need light ammo. There's some. Alright, that should be good. Alright, where's this last team, dude? One thing I don't think I have is any. I have some. Alright. I'm gonna set my portal. I wanna go find these guys. Yeah. Is that where they are? This is where the battle is gonna be for sure. So, this is always where the battle is in this circle.
Placing a portal.
And there's a care package coming down, so you know they're gonna be there. What I mean.
Portal's ready.
I think they're up here. Dude, this has got to be a solo guy. There's no way a team is hiding like this. It is definitely massive. The Mastiff. Let's go! I'm the best character to have it. Someone's aiming at me. He's got to be in the top. He's got to be in the top over here. Yeah, I am. I detect him right here.
Let's go this
Heartbeat
way.
sensor. He's 90 feet out. Yep, I see him. Just one. Here he is, here he is. Oh, he's cracked! He's gold. I cracked him, he's down. He just threw his ult. Caustic. No! Oh, I got it off! Alright, alright, alright. Where is he? I can't see him, dude.
45 seconds.
No. Dude, I'm almost dead. No! Tigo! It's up to you, dude. Nice. It's one-on-one. He's coming at you. He's coming. You got him. You got it, Tigo. You the big dog. You the big dog, Tigo. You the big dog. Keep it in close. Keep it in close. Let's go. That's my boy. That's my boy. Dude. Your smoke killed me, bro. Cause you smoked me and he had his vision on. Dude, he had his vision on. So when you smoked, he annihilated me. It's cool. Well, that's how it's done, boy. I don't know what that Wraith was doing. She wouldn't let go of her thing. So I just annihilated her. Yeah, I know. That's what I blasted the Wraith with. I think that Mastiff, though, it is so inconsistent. It's really... Let's go. Did you win? Oh.
That dude's Apex.
All that matters, being the last one alive.
Introducing your champion. I'm the jump master. This time.
I'm just playing. Nope, we're just playing trios. We're just having fun right now. I do want to play ranked. Yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna go to the hotspot. Probably jumped a little early, but it's good.
Alright, this is gonna be my first play.
There you go. Man, that was good. That was our first trio, right? Where, right here? Oh, knocked. 2 knocked. Last one's right here. Knocked.
Downed another.
He's almost dead, 2. Beat this guy down. Oh no! No! Dang it! I knocked 2 of them. He's rezzing up here. Oh, I'm dead. Oh no! You're good, you're good. Dude, they're so low. You could probably get 5 kills. I'm coming to you though, I'm coming. I've almost made it. They're distracted now. Okay. You can loot down here. This is unlooted. Let's go. Sliding right down the hill. Alright, see ya. Dude, that alternator in the beginning is so good. Just look at him, that boy thirsty. He's looking up there just shooting random shots. That's funny. I'm ready to go back up there. Really? Where? Let him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Where are they? I don't think so, dude. Oh, I don't think so. Right here. On the hill. Oh, he's got purple. I'm staying back. Just let them come to us. Let them come to us. Where? Alright, I'm getting inside. I'm getting in the building. Getting in. You in?
Rings next door. 45.
45 ripped. Knocked, knocked, knocked. Knocked. Alright, I'm setting a portal out there.
Follow the tunnel.
See if I can bait him in.
The ring's close.
Give me a sec. Recharging shield. Aiming right at you.
They're just pushing in from behind us too, dude. Like from this factory area. Dude, this guy is flying this thing. He just needs to go somewhere. Honestly. Are you kidding? It's all the way at the factory. Sitting with a Centennial Wireless. Oh, dude, that's hilarious. Your son is so funny. Says it so mature too. Hold on a second, son. Did y'all call me in? So I can get sniped out of the air. I think you can call me in, dude. It's right there. We're pushing. Oh. Yeah, he's all flesh. That boy ripped him. I think he went to the bottom, though. You got him? He's choking. He's choking. Make him pay. Make him pay. Oh, they all got purple. That boy don't... They all had purple, dude. Do purple and gold? Come on now, man. They need to go to the bathroom. What's up, Russell? Yo, Russell. What's up? Yo, homie, Russell Wilson. Call me out. Touchdown. My homie, Russell. What'd you say?
I said, what if you want to wrestle?
I do want to wrestle.
Yeah, wrestle.
You talking to a southern boy now. I know what a wrestle is. I wrestled me a pig or two in my day, boy. And I wrestled a bull with my pinky toe. That's right, boy. My pinky toe.
My name is Wraith. We have a job to do.
This is your champion.
When we meet, I will slaughter.
Adam. Hate hell. Lit. Lit the crap out of him.
Hold on tight. It's time to drop, shock, and rock.
Dun 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 dun.
All little slick.
What's up, Russell?
Contact with Tommy. I'm going over there.
Going there too. I'll get the outside first and then jump to the bottom. What? It's a major choke. Did you loot this at all, Tigo? Oh, okay. I was leaving it for you, but I'll go up there.
Eva 8 here.
Y'all see a wingman, let me know. Actually, never mind.
Pop and smoke.
You good?
Double time victory.
Yeah.
Stand spotted.
Alright.
Frag out.
Are they chasing?
Up, fire out. Frag out. Frag out.
Where is it?
Contact with hostile.
Where? I hear him. Yep. Cool. I think they're in the bottom. Going up top real quick. Knocked. It's knocked.
Enemy down.
Oh, dude, he's so weak. I knocked one, the other one shields pop, the lifeline.
Reloading.
That she destroyed you with that havoc, didn't she? Yeah, she destroyed me too. Here, just one sec, Pharaoh. I gotta heal. Nice. What about the Revenant?
kill leader. Watch for them.
I ran. Yeah, I ran. Do they see you? I had him. That boy said PK. Move again. Boom. Dude, come on now. That's alright, boys. Let's go again now. I'm gonna show you how I do a little backflip here. Everybody watching my stream, watch this. Do a quick backflip. Just kidding. Do a backflip, and then I would be knocked out. Hey, Beastie, you there? Later. I ain't jumping no more. It's hilarious, dude.
Nothing surprises me.
Till you go Earth. Farrell's like, man, I don't know if that actually be funny.
I put the time in. I've earned my stripes.
This is your champion.
After this, we should hang out.
I'm the jump master. This time.
What do y'all want to do? Good thing I am. Let's go high, dude.
Here we go. Ready?
Have we even landed high yet? We did? Oh yeah, that went pretty good. That was just like fight after fight after fight after fight after fight. I like that though. Are you landing up here too?
Enemy down. Enemy taken out.
All right, I got one. I'm healing. Are you good? There's a guy hiding below me, Octane. He's coming. I'm just waiting on him. I think he's trying to recover his friend. No, he's not trying to recover anyone. He's just sitting down here counting his blessings.
Nice work.
Sometimes you gotta count your blessings, but you gotta realize you're stressing when you count your blessings. Go, boys. People over here somewhere. Oh, they're in the bottom of this unfinished building, whatever you want to call it. Sure. Ooh, nice. Is that right there? If you find a R99, let me know, please.
Barrel stabilizer here. Level 3.
I need it.
Alright. They're over here in the bottom.
Might be
Where
something
they
good
were
this way.
like 35 seconds ago, so.
Copy that.
Patching myself up.
Are you still streaming, Farrell?
Rings nearby. 1 minute till close.
They'll see a wingman, let me know. They pushed out of here. I would guess probably this way. Right? Yep. The boxes.
Body shield here.
Alright.
Level 2.
You're definitely playing way too much Call of Duty.
Setting a portal.
Let's go this way. Cancel that.
Portal's ready.
I'm not sure. So weird, like, to go from there to here. If I've ever done this push. See a wingman, let me know.
We're inside.
Body shield here. Left optics here. Sniper.
Okay, this is awesome, dude. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Attention. Extended light mag here. I need it. Banner SMG here.
Boy. I guess, right? This is a really weird push, though. You know what I mean? Like rotation. I think they said in the update they changed the circle rotation.
New kill leader. Call him if you spot him. Watching that spot. Got to check out over there. Wingman here. Optics here. Close red.
Ooh, yes.
I need it.
Thank you. You want a gold barrel? You got a barrel gun?
Barrel stabilizer here. Level 4.
I'm coming. Gotta run. Run, run, run. Run. Just run. Okay, I'm trying to get there.
Arcstar out. Arcstar out.
Where is he? I don't see anybody. Knocked him! Last one right here. That's the last one. Nice, nice, nice. He's healing, he's healing, he's healing. Woo! He's healing! I thought you killed him! He popped it! He got it off! No! Yeah, it was him! Oh. I thought he was too. What was the? No, it was the Pathfinder next to him on the ground that. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah. I'm sorry, dude. I thought it was dead. Cause it did that noise. That's why. It did the doing, whatever that noise is when everybody on the team does. He was up the whole time though, Watson. He was popping the shield behind it, but I thought you hit him. But I think you hit the Pathfinder. For some reason you got a... Are you using your Yeti? Ego? Oh, nothing. Your voice actually sounds better. It's just louder. I just had to... No, you're cool. That's why I love Discord. I just had to adjust your own personal volume. Good with me. Yeah, it was fine. I already adjusted you. I just noticed in that game. Thank you, though.
Rock up. It's time to move out.
Introducing your champion.
No such thing as our way, ladies. It's time. I'm the jump master.
You lost this time.
Medea. All good for me.
I am the jump master.
Touchdown here.
Okay, I am coming. And dude. Can't believe it's already 1 o'clock. Nice, nice. Think so? On the train? Yeah, they just landed there. Down here too. Right here. He's running out to you, Tigo. Other ones, he went up the other stairs that come out right here. Alright, 2 down. You got him down? I think that was their 3rd. Nope, that's not their 3rd, because he's right here, train. Oh, I can't shoot through the window! It's a window! Right here. Knocked. Yeah, this guy's purple too. No, right here, right here. They're both right here. How did he laser me like that? He's poking out my purple. I thought y'all were right there too. I would have never pushed like that. They've got the purple. Yeah, no, I'm just talking out loud. That's him. He picked it up. Yep, he got it. They're like all almost dead though. I already got one of them. We're gonna try to probably res their friend. I think that's from earlier. No, I don't think Acoustic's with them. I think they just ran totally. Or they're hiding. Yeah, that's them. Right there. You got him, dude. You got him. Score him up with that. I don't know why he's looting me, but you got him. There you go. Good, we all got purples. Get 190 on the first guy, and then I get 17. Just didn't get that. I feel like Octane, sometimes his hitbox is broken. Probably because he's as big as Wraith. I think he's bigger than Lifeline though. Maybe I'm wrong. Alright. I'm coming. Just need my weapons. Did y'all get my flatline? It's y'all's flatline, you got it. Okay. Coming. You wanna push out that way? Okay.
I could use that.
How many kills do you have? Say, we landed in that battle and... I don't even want this. Here. Hill.
Hostile close. Throw my grenade out.
I'm running. I'm not facing 2 guys on the hill. He's right up here though on the rock. Missed every shot. Right here on the right. He's popped. He's shields, or he's nothing. And he's just flush. Oh, your thing. Knocked.
Enemy down.
Popped. Did you kill him? I'm getting shot from behind. I don't know. Dude, I got no shields. I got nothing, literally. Are you good, Farrell? Like, I noticed you're in that 1v1. I don't want to just act like I'm leaving you. Are you good, Tigo? Not rushing you. I don't see him. Oh, he's running. Right here. Or running. Yeah, they're on top of the house now. I cracked him. He's chasing. Cracked him. Right here.
Contact with target. Thermite grenade out.
Yeah, I hit this guy right here. He's almost dead. Knocked. You knocked that guy too? Okay, last one alive then is on top of the house. Let's push in. Here, push up with us. Oh, he's gonna die. Knocked.
Taking shots. Enemy down. Throwing arc star.
He's right here, shielding. Right here, almost dead. Oh, he's doing his finisher on me. Oh, what a joke, man. Way that should have happened. It's gonna res right there. Thank you. Just call me in right there, please. When you get a chance. I'm not trying to be pushy.
Next ring spa.
Boy, you get
Close a couple times though.
what? As long as I can get my box, I'll be fine. Yeah. I got everything I need, honestly. This guy just completed everything for me. Thank you, Tigo. You're the best. Okay, I had a little impression of. How many kills do y'all have? What?
Patching myself up.
I can't believe that guy got me though, dude. I had him. Shot him in the head for 74 too.
Less than 30 seconds.
Oh, it was so sad. And Wraith really is so small. Even when I stand next to Bangalore, you look like a giant. That's left side. We can cut them off. Let's go to the hill. Yeah, let's go to the hill. By the time we get there, the ring's gonna be almost closed in too.
Rings moving. Hustle up.
Yeah. Yeah, we might as well just wait up here. I'm gonna wait right here. Top of the house. Actually, you know what? I got this.
Punching a tunnel.
I'm gonna set this for us. I'm gonna hide it up here. And use it.
Watch your six.
Right here, I think he's looting. He is.
Throwing thermite.
Oh,
Recharging.
am I getting chased? Oh my gosh. Thank you. Oh,
Going to fix.
what?
They laid traps.
They just ran. Knocked me and ran.
All good.
Thank you. Oh, he's to the right.
Frag out.
He's red. 38.
They laid traps.
Up top.
Hostile close.
He's popped. Bad. Nade him in there? Can you nade him? Oh no! That was such a bad choice. Dude, yeah, you can't push in there. It's a wrap. 1v3. Yeah, that was such a bad choice. I should have never ran in like that. That was a bad choice, boys. Russian a caustic and a Gibraltar. Well, won't make that decision again. Yeah, it's the new one. That's the new one. Dude, and those last... Yeah, it's just so slow, the Sentinel. It's like, trying to... I don't know, it's just like... It's just so slow. If you... Yeah, if you do the charge up, as long as they don't have people, it does like... I think you can do like 160.
Time to see if all those drills have paid off.
Powered up and ready to go.
Prepared and ready.
Introducing your champion.
friends.
That was a good game though.
Good place to land. Let's explore this way.
Who's playing Pathfinder? Let's go! Let's switch it up next game. You can pick your main, I'll pick Path.
I won. Congratulations to me.
Alright, when we're dead, just make sure you pick us up.
Going to check out over there.
Alright, 1 second. Wow, dude, there's so many people behind you, Tigo.
Grappling.
Is that you shooting? Making sure.
Enemy taken out.
Alright, I'm coming up to you. I don't know where this guy is, but he's aiming at me.
Body shield here. Energy. Sniper ammo here.
I think the R301 has some of the ugliest skins. They look cool in concept, but in game they're not. Is he right here?
Have been down.
Yeah, he's almost dead.
Reloading.
Both. Yep. They're both almost dead if you want to rush them.
Heads up.
Ripped them bad. He's one shot, literally. There we go. Nice, Scooter.
Don't worry, I'm here.
I don't know why I just called you Scooter. My name's not Scooter. Flatline R301. Bad. What about... Okay, let's try to... I know what, no. I need heals. Is this even looted?
Supply bin here.
Alternator or R301? Is that how bad the alternate or the R301s become?
1 minute. Ring's pretty close.
Yeah, I like it because it's like slow and steady.
Extended light back here.
It just,
Level 3.
you know what I like more though?
Third choice.
In the R301,
Barrel stabilizer here. Level 3.
I like the
45 seconds. Ring ain't far. I can use that.
it's for you, buddy. I don't want it.
Wingman here.
That's what I want.
Only 30 seconds left on the clock. The ring's close.
There's a prowler with select.
Select fire.
I could use that.
Placing a portal.
Medkit here. They help.
I need that too. Just bring it to me, please.
10 seconds.
Set the portal.
You're a bot. Drop it on the ground, come down for it. What is up here? Oh yeah, it is. Nice, dude. Just what I need.
Gotta hop up here. Select fire.
You got that med kit? Billie Jean. Everything I don't need.
I need it.
Picking myself up. Heads up. Care package coming in.
Check out this
That
area.
PK?
Heard that.
Okay. Cool with me. Good, that's what I want. Personally. Nice PK. It will keep the peace long enough. PK Wingman. Works for for me. And there's a flatline in every box.
R99 here. Sniper stock here. Level 3.
Bottom left. There's
Backpack here.
over here.
Level
Let's
2.
explore this way.
Body shield here. Level 2.
You want that, Pharaoh? Already up here.
Phoenix kit here.
Okay. Anybody?
Might be something good this way.
This wasn't even landed up. Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Let's go this way. Heavy ammo here. Gotta hop up here. Hammer point.
I could use that.
Where is that? Out here? Yep.
To check out right here.
Maybe I can get a shield. Or a sight. I know. No, it's
Thank you.
I told you to get it, but it's okay. Right, I was away from it. That's what I meant, at least. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll try to get one right here. These guys are having a
Frag out.
big battle, boys.
Frag out.
I am taking fire, friends.
52 on one.
Opening fire.
Recharging shields.
Couldn't let down range.
You're not safe there.
Knocked, almost. Shields off.
Reloading.
Throwing out shot.
Fire, friends.
Already on my mark. Fire back.
Enemy down.
Getting shot at.
Coming inside.
Need to recharge my shield.
They're coming in the door. Tigo.
Contact with target.
Oh my gosh. He's right there. He's good too. Yeah, he's good. I don't, yeah. He's rushing. What'd you say? Yeah, he's Warzone. Everybody, our Pharaoh's even